Hi, it's Jesse, and I have a word. Um, in my prayer time this morning, God put in front of me a vision of darkness, just complete and utter darkness, like black as my hoodie here. And in the darkness, the only thing that you could see were these giant boulders just like shattering and crumbling to pieces. And I wasn't afraid, but I was looking and I'm like, God, what are you showing me? What does this mean? And he said to go to his word, and he didn't give me a space to look. So one of the first things that I did was I searched the term boulders, and boulders doesn't come up in the Bible. So then I turned around and I looked up rocks, and then it hit me with in my search, it brings up all the verses that have the term rocks in it. And when I came to Nahum 1:6, I read, who can withstand his indignation? Who can endure his fierce anger? His wrath is poured out like fire. The rocks are shattered before him. And when I read that, I heard he's coming, you know? And so I not in fear, but just like in awe, I sat back and I meditated on it for a minute, and then I went back and I read through Nahum, and I'd like to read through it with you if I might. Um, okay, so Nahum was the minor prophet who proclaimed judgment on Nineveh. He didn't proclaim, go around calling the people to repentance. No, repentance was not even an option. It was just like God was bringing his wrath, and that was it. Nahum was the one who stood up and called for it. So this we're going to read about the goodness of God in Nahum 1, and read about what it means when he comes down, when he comes close to us. Okay, so Nahum 1, it starts off a prophecy concerning Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. The Lord's anger against Nineveh. The Lord is a jealous and avenging God. The Lord takes vengeance and is filled with wrath. The Lord takes vengeance on his foes and vents his wrath against his enemies. The Lord is slow to anger, but great in power. The Lord will not leave the guilty unpunished. His way is in the whirlwind, and the storm and clouds are dust of his feet. He rebukes the seas and dries it up. He makes the rivers run dry. Bashan and Carmel wither, and the blossoms of Lebanon fade. The mountains quake before him, and the hills melt away. The earth trembles at his presence, the world and all who live in it. Who can withstand his indignation? Who can endure his fierce anger? His wrath is poured out like fire. The rocks are shattered before him. The Lord is good, a refuge in times of trouble. He cares for those who trust in him. But with an overwhelming flood, he will make an end of Nineveh. He will pursue his foes into the realm of darkness. So I think that this is what I was seeing, because everything was just black in my vision except for the rocks. The rocks were of a normal color, like they were lit up in the daytime, the way you would see rocks. But everything around was pitch black, and all I could see were the rocks crumbling. So I'm reading through this, and I don't know. I felt like I wanted to share it with y'all because what's that warning? If you don't sound the alarm, then um, you're guilty of not warning them, and you're obliged to suffer the same fate. So I guess I'm standing up to sound the alarm because I Jesus said, that the day of the Lord will be a terrible day. And in my vision, I wasn't afraid. I felt no fear. I felt comfort in the hands of my Father. So I think that if we have like a relationship with God, with Jesus, with the greater one. If we have a relationship, then we don't really have to fear, because I think we're coming into a time where you know, all those things that were done behind closed doors, all those things that were done in the darkness are are going to be judged. You know, if you think that darkness is your covering, well, darkness is the place where you find God, and so when you make it your refuge, don't be surprised when you encounter God, and don't be surprised if everything around you starts crumbling, and you can't find your way out because everything's dark and you have no light in you to show you the way. But if you have the light in you you can see where the rocks are crumbling. You can bear witness to what's going on around you, and it won't affect you, because you'll know that this is just what happens when he comes in. I told the story before, but I'll tell it again. There's this tribe in Africa, and they equate God, they use an analogy to equate God with the power of the sun, and they pray for God not to intervene in its world. Because, that if you equate the two powers, we appreciate the sun and everything that it gives us warmth, vitamin D, it makes plant life possible. Life is not possible without that bright sun shining in the sky. But if that sun were to come closer to us, we would all burn up. We would all perish. And they say that, if the sun has that much power, how much more powerful is the power of God? And so they pray that God does not intervene in our lives, because it's like a protective measure. They offer sacrifices that he might stay away. Um, but I think that's smart on one side, but on the other side, I remember back to the Garden of Eden, where God walked with Adam and Eve, and he even called to them and had a relationship with them. They had daily encounters. And it wasn't until they started hiding from him that they got booted out of the garden, and lost that connection. And I think how great the world would be if we could return to that. And I know that the kingdom, it comes through violence. We're told this all through Scripture. We're told that the day of the Lord is a horrible day. It's a terrifying day, because nobody knows what to expect. But I think that if we just view it as transition, labor pain, if you've ever had a child, labor pain can be pretty excruciating. And when we go through it, time and time again, life is not possible without labor pains. And so I think if we view this time that's coming as a necessary transitional period, it won't be so frightening. And if we trust in God and his righteous judgment, it won't be so wounding. We won't be hurt by the things that we see. We won't be terrified that what's out there is going to come upon us, because we know that we have this inner voice in us, and we have the Holy Spirit in us to guide and lead us where we need to go and where we need to be, and everything will be okay, and it is well. So that's my word for today. It's just be still. Just when things start to shake, when everything goes dark, when you hear the boulders are shattering, just know that it's well. We're going back to the garden, and if we can endure it, if we can survive into the end, then we get a pass to enter in to a kingdom where we can walk with God. Where He is our first love, our best friend, our Father, our brother. Our everything. and to return to those days, where we don't have to strife and worry about what we will eat, because we know that we have a God that provides, and because He's with us, we can trust, and know beyond a shadow of a doubt, He's never gonna leave or forsake us again. We're gonna rest in Him, like in the days of the garden, and all will be well. You know, that's not to say that He's not with us now. But there was so much misery in the world, and everybody's like, "Oh, if there was a God, there wouldn't be this," and that's where you're wrong. See, because people have covered themselves with darkness, and though you can see in the darkness with your little owl eyes, God, God God operates on this thing of justice, and it's about what you can like prove. That's why the devil has been so strategic in all these years. Um, it's not about truth, it's about proof. What can you prove? What can you convict on? And because we have a system that settles justice here, there's really no reason for God to intervene, because we say that we got this. But when we realize that the system is rigged, the system is broken, and the system has adopted the way of the transgressors, where they don't prosecute the guilty, they paint them guilty, and that's a sad way to be, and though they do these things in darkness, the light shines on them, and God sees, and this is why He says that He's coming down, because of all the injustice. He says there will be vindication. Not everybody in prison deserves to be there. Our justice system is faulty. And as we cry out to God, and He hears us, He hears us. When we give it to Him, because we have nowhere else to turn, He hears us, and we give Him our dominion, and our power, and our authority that He gave to Adam originally, right? We give it back to Him, and that gives Him room. See, remember, it's legalistic, right? It's a system. But because He gave us the dominion, power, and authority to handle these things, He doesn't intervene. But when the system is so broken, when they touch His beloved, then they're in trouble. Because now He's got the dominion and the power and authority to come off His throne and come back down to us. And that's kind of what's going on right now. And I think that's why He gave me the vision of the rock scroll, because He's letting you know that, He's coming to vindicate. He's bringing justice. And yeah, it may look like wrath, but truly it's just transition, because, there's got to be a cutting. There's got to be circumcision, and yeah, it's going to be painful, but new life is always brought through new birth. Right, so, that's about all I have to say today. Glory to God, and have a good day.